My fiancé said at the cake tasting, "We're doing vegan everything. Your family will just have to deal with their allergies." My sister is severely allergic to tree nuts, the main protein in her menu. I said, "Let's discuss this." Then I canceled the wedding entirely and refunded every deposit. When the baker called her saying I'd withdrawn everything. Original post. I, 31 male, proposed to my fiancée after 3 years of dating. She said yes. I cried. She cried. It was all very cinematic. For about 9 months after that, I was genuinely the happiest I'd ever been. Then we started planning the wedding, and I met a version of this woman I had never seen before. Let me back up. My fiancée went vegan about a year into our relationship. Totally her choice, totally fine. I'm not vegan. I eat meat. We made it work the way most couples with different diets make it work. I didn't put bacon in her pasta. She didn't lecture me at steakhouses. Mutual respect. Simple. But somewhere between the engagement and the first vendor meeting, veganism went from her personal lifestyle choice to the wedding's entire identity. She wanted a fully vegan menu. I said that's fine, but we should have a couple non-vegan options for guests who might want them. She said no, all vegan. I pushed a little. My family is very food-oriented. My grandmother is 78 and has eaten the same way her entire life, and I just thought it would be polite to offer alternatives. She said, "It's our wedding, not a Denny's. People can eat vegan for one meal." I'll let it go. One meal. Fine. People can deal. Then the cake tasting happened. We're sitting in this bakery. Cute little place. The owner is great, and we're sampling cakes. My fiancé had specifically requested a vegan bakery. No problem. We're trying different flavors, and the baker mentions that most of their vegan recipes use cashew cream and almond flour as base ingredients because they give the best texture for dairy-free baking. Standard stuff for vegan baking. I said out loud, casually, "We'll need at least one option that's tree nut free." My sister has a severe allergy. And my fiancé, without looking up from the sample she was eating, said, "We're doing vegan everything. Your family will just have to deal with their allergies." She did the air quotes with her fingers while holding a fork. The baker's face went very still. That professional kind of still where someone wants to say something but knows it's not their place. I said, "Her allergy isn't in air quotes. She carries an EpiPen. She's been hospitalized twice." I know, but there are vegan options without tree nuts. Then let's do those. No, I want a cashew cream cake. It won Best Vegan Cake at that food expo last year. I've wanted this specific cake since before we were even engaged. Okay, then we get your cake and one separate nut-free option for the people who can't eat it. No, one cake, one menu, one vision. Your sister can skip dessert. She'll survive. She literally might not survive if she eats tree nuts. That's what an allergy means. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. She can just not eat the cake. Nobody's forcing her to eat anything. Let me explain something about my sister. She's 26. She's been dealing with this allergy since she was 3. She knows how to navigate food situations. But a tree nut allergy at a wedding where the entire menu is built around nut-based proteins, cashew cheese, almond flour bread, walnut pesto, cashew cream dessert, isn't just a skip that dish situation. It's cross-contamination everywhere. Shared serving utensils, nut particles on every surface. The catering staff at most venues aren't trained for allergen protocols at that level. One mistake, and she's using an EpiPen, and someone's calling 911 at my wedding. I looked at the baker. I said, "Can you give us a minute?" She stepped out, probably grateful. I turned to my fiancée and said, "Let's discuss this at home." "Not here." She rolled her eyes. "There's nothing to discuss. I'm not redesigning my entire wedding menu around one person's dietary issue. It's not a dietary issue. It's a medical condition. Same difference." We left the bakery, drove home in silence. I didn't bring it up that night because I needed to think, not about the cake, about everything. See, the cake was just the thing that cracked the surface. Once I started looking at the pattern, it was everywhere. The venue she picked was 45 minutes from my family and 5 minutes from hers. The guest list was 60-40 her side to mine because she had more people she was close with. She'd vetoed my choice of best man, my college roommate, because she didn't like him and wanted the wedding party to look cohesive. She'd picked the DJ, the photographer, the florist all without me. When I suggested anything, it was either not the vibe or let me handle the aesthetic stuff, you handle the budget stuff. The budget stuff, right? Because I was paying for about 80% of the wedding. Her parents contributed $5,000. Mine contributed $8,000. The rest, roughly $27,000, was me. My savings. 3 years of putting money aside. And now she wanted to spend those savings on a wedding where my sister couldn't safely eat. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to her and did math in my head. Not wedding math. Life math. The kind where you calculate whether the person lying next to you sees you as a partner or a funding source with an opinion they tolerate. The next morning, I told her I needed to run errands. I drove to every vendor we'd booked. Every single one. The caterer, the baker, the florist, the DJ, the photographer, the venue coordinator. I had the contracts because I'd signed them. My name was on every deposit check. I canceled everything. Every contract that had a cancellation window. I was within it for most of them because the wedding was still 5 months out. The ones with non-refundable deposits, I ate the loss. About $2,200 total in non-refundable fees. It hurt, but less than the alternative. I moved the recovered funds, about $24,000, back into my personal savings account. Then I drove to my parents' house and sat in their kitchen and told them what happened. My mom's face did this thing where she was simultaneously sad and unsurprised, which is maybe the worst combination of emotions a mother can show you. My dad just shook his head and said, "What do you need from us?" "I need to stay here for a few days." "Your room's still your room." I went back to the apartment my fiancée and I shared, my lease, my name, and waited for her to come home from work. She walked in at 6:15. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of water and a very organized folder of canceled contracts. "Hey, why is there a voicemail from the baker saying our order is canceled?" "Because I canceled it." "You what?" "I canceled the baker, and the caterer, and the venue, and the florist, and the DJ, and the photographer. I canceled the wedding." She didn't move for about 5 seconds. Then she grabbed her phone and started calling the venue. I watched her listen to the recording confirming the cancellation. She tried the caterer. Same thing. The florist. Same. "You can't do this. You cannot unilaterally cancel our wedding." Every contract was in my name. Every deposit was from my account. Legally, I absolutely can. And I did. Where is the money? Back in my savings. Where it came from. That was wedding money. That was our money. It was my money. I earned it. I saved it. Your parents contributed $5,000, which I've already set aside to return to them. My parents' contribution is being returned to them too. She started crying. I want to be honest about this. Watching her cry didn't feel good. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like watching something die. Because it was. A future I'd planned, a life I'd imagined, a version of us that never actually existed. It was all dying right there in the kitchen, and the only thing I felt was tired. You're ending us over a cake. I'm ending us over the fact that you put air quotes around my sister's life-threatening allergy and told me she could just skip dinner at my own wedding. A wedding I paid for, where she wouldn't be safe. I would have figured something out. You didn't even give me a chance. You had a chance. At the bakery, I said, "Let's discuss this." You said there's nothing to discuss. She didn't have a response to that. She just stood there crying and then said, "Where are you going?" "My parents' house. The lease here is up in February. You have until then to find a new place." I packed a bag. I left. Update 1. Okay, so a lot happened, and I owe y'all an update because the comments on the original post were honestly the thing keeping me sane for a few days there. First, I returned her parents $5,000 via certified check with a short letter explaining that the wedding was off, and I wanted to make sure they received their contribution back in full. I thought this was the decent thing to do. I was wrong. Apparently being decent was the worst move because it kicked off a whole new wave of drama. Her mother called me. Not her father, who I actually liked. Her mother. And this woman came out swinging. "You humiliated my daughter. You canceled her wedding behind her back like a coward. You owe her an explanation and an apology, and frankly, you owe us a lot more than $5,000 for the emotional damage you've caused this family. Ma'am, I canceled a wedding that I was paying for because your daughter refused to accommodate a life-threatening food allergy for my sister. Oh, please. Allergies are manageable. My niece is lactose intolerant, and she manages fine. Lactose intolerance and anaphylactic tree nut allergy are not the same thing. You're being manipulated by your family. They never liked her. My family loved her. My sister was going to be a bridesmaid. That's how much she loved her. Then your sister should have been willing to make sacrifices for the big day. The sacrifice you're describing is risking anaphylaxis. You are twisting everything. She hung up. I saved the call log, starting to learn the documentation habit from previous Reddit posts honestly. Then my fiancée, ex-fiancée, started a pressure campaign through her mutual friends. She told people I'd cancel the wedding because I was controlling about money and had anger issues about her dietary choices. She said I'd cleared out their wedding fund without warning. She framed it as financial abuse. Financial abuse. I paid for the wedding. I canceled the wedding I paid for. That's apparently abuse now. 3 friends reached out. 1 was sympathetic to her. 2 were confused and 1 on my side. I told the truth to the 2 who asked. The 1 who was sympathetic, her college friend who'd been in the wedding party, sent me a long text about how weaponizing finances to control a partner is a form of domestic violence, and that I should seek help. I didn't respond. Here's the move that really showed me who I was dealing with. My ex called my sister directly. She called my sister, the one with the allergy, and told her that the wedding was canceled because of her. She said, and I'm quoting my sister's recounting, "I hope you're happy that your brother threw away his future because you can't eat normal food." My sister called me in tears. Not because she believed it, because someone she considered a future sister-in-law had just called her disability a burden that destroyed a relationship. My sister, who has spent her entire life navigating a world that treats her allergy as an inconvenience, being told she was the reason a wedding fell apart. That was the moment I stopped feeling sad about the breakup. Sadness requires some residual attachment to what you lost. After that phone call with my sister, I felt nothing toward my ex except the cold recognition that I had almost married someone capable of calling a 26-year-old woman to blame her for existing with a medical condition. I texted my ex one message: "Do not contact my sister again. Do not contact any member of my family. All communication goes through me or not at all." She replied, "Or what?" I didn't answer. I called a lawyer instead. Update 2. The lawyer consultation was $200 for an hour. Best money I've spent since getting back that $24,000. Here's what I learned. In our state, since we weren't married, finances were straightforward. My money is my money. Her money is hers. The wedding funds came from my account, the contracts were in my name, and I had every legal right to cancel. She had zero claim to any of it. The $5,000 from her parents was already returned. My parents' contribution was returned. Done. The lawyer also said the phone call to my sister was concerning. Not illegal in itself, but combined with the ongoing contact after I'd asked her to stop, it established a pattern. He said if she continued, I could pursue a harassment protection order. Now let me tell you about the apartment situation, because this is where her entitlement went fully nuclear. The lease on our apartment was in my name. I'd been the original tenant, and she moved in with me after a year of dating. She was never added to the lease. She paid me a flat amount each month for her share, but the landlord's relationship was with me. When I told her the lease was up in February and she needed to find a place, she apparently interpreted that as a suggestion rather than a fact. Mid-January, I got a call from my landlord. He said my fiancée, he didn't know we'd broken up, had called him asking to have the lease transferred to her name. He was confused because I hadn't mentioned anything. I told him we'd split up and that I would not be renewing the lease. He said fine, the unit would go back on the market in February. She found out and lost it. She texted me from a friend's phone since I'd blocked her number by then. You're making me homeless. I have nowhere to go. My parents live 3 hours away. You're kicking me out of my own home. I responded once. The lease ends February 28th. You've had 2 months' notice. That is more than legally required. She tried another angle. She had her mother call my mother. Her mother told my mom that I was throwing her daughter on the street, and that my family should be ashamed of raising a man who treats women this way. My mom, who is a retired elementary school teacher and the most patient person on earth, said, "Your daughter called mine and blamed her for existing. We're done here," and hung up. My mom has now hung up on 2 people in 1 month, which is 2 more than her lifetime average before this. Then came the thing with the ring. The engagement ring had been my grandmother's. Not an heirloom in the fancy sense. It was a modest ring, white gold band, small diamond. My grandmother gave it to me before she passed because I was her oldest grandchild and she wanted me to use it. It had sentimental value, not resale value. Maybe $800 a day. Jeweler. My ex had the ring. She hadn't returned it when I moved out. I asked for it back via text. She said, "Come get it yourself." So I did. I drove over with my dad because I wasn't about to go alone and knocked on the door. She opened it. "I'm here for the ring." It was a gift. Gifts don't get returned. In this state, an engagement ring given in contemplation of marriage is considered a conditional gift. If the marriage doesn't happen, the ring goes back to the giver. I can show you the statute if you want. I'd memorized that from my lawyer consultation. The look on her face told me she had not consulted a lawyer. My dad stood behind me, saying nothing, being a wall. She looked at him. He looked at her. She went inside, came back, and handed me the ring box. "I hope you know no one is going to want to marry you." My dad, speaking for the first time, said, "Ma'am, I've been married 34 years. Trust me, he'll be fine." Then he turned and walked to the car. I followed. We drove home. He didn't say another word about it, which is his way of saying everything. She moved out by February 25th, 3 days before the lease ended. She moved back to her parents' place. I know this because a mutual friend told me, not because I asked. Update 3. Final. Last update. Gonna keep this one shorter because honestly, the dramatic part is over and what's left is just life. The $2,200 I lost in non-refundable deposits stung for about a week. Then I reframed it as the cost of learning who I was about to marry. Cheapest education I ever got. A divorce would have cost 20 times that. Easy. My sister is doing well. She was shaken by the phone call for a while. Not because of what was said, but because it confirmed something she's always quietly feared, that her allergy makes her a burden. We had a long conversation about it over dinner at my parents' house. I told her that anyone who sees her medical condition as an inconvenience to their party planning isn't someone who belongs in our family. She nodded. Then she said, "Your next girlfriend better like me." I said, "If she doesn't, I'm going to need you to develop a personality." She threw a dinner roll on my head. We're good. The mutual friend situation sorted itself out the way these things always do. The friend who sent me the domestic violence text never apologized, but also stopped texting. Gone. The 2 who asked for my side stuck around. One of them eventually admitted that she'd known about the phone call to my sister and had told my ex it was a terrible idea beforehand. So at least someone tried. My ex's mother sent me one final email about 6 weeks after the breakup. It was long. The thesis was that I had destroyed her daughter's dream wedding and that I owed them restitution for emotional damages and lost deposits on her side. Her side's deposits amounted to the dress, $1,800, non-refundable, and some bridesmaid accessories for $100. She wanted $2,200 from me. I forwarded it to my lawyer. He sent back a 1-page response on letterhead explaining that I had no legal obligation to cover costs associated with a wedding that was canceled due to the other party's refusal to accommodate a documented medical condition, and that any further financial demands would be treated as harassment. I never heard from her mother again. As for my ex herself, the last thing I heard, and this was secondhand, was that she'd started a blog about surviving narcissistic relationships and had posted a long essay about our breakup without naming me. Apparently, the comments section was split between people sympathizing with her and people asking why she wouldn't accommodate a nut allergy. She turned comments off. I didn't read it. I don't need to. I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm not ready. Not because I'm broken, because I'm recalibrating. 3 years with someone teaches you things about yourself, some good and some bad. I learned that I'm capable of making a hard decision when it counts. I also learned that I ignored red flags for a long time because the good days were really good and I didn't want to do the math on the bad ones. My grandmother's ring is back in my mom's jewelry box. She asked if I wanted her to hold on to it. I said yeah. Someday I'll use it. Not soon, but someday. The $24,000 is sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4.5% APY, which is more attention than my ex ever gave it. That money was supposed to be the start of a life together. Now it's just the start. I'll figure out what it's for when I'm ready. My dad asked me last week if I regretted it. I said no. He said, good, because you protected your sister, your money, and your self-respect all in the same afternoon. Most men don't manage that in a lifetime. Then he went back to watching the game, and that was that. If you're in a situation where someone is asking you to compromise the safety of the people you love for the sake of their aesthetic preferences, whether it's a wedding, a dinner party, or a Tuesday, that's not a compromise. That's a test. And the answer is no. Thanks for reading. Be good to your people. And for the love of God, take food allergies seriously.